Alright guys, I think this will work as far as filming goes today. I decided to try to film outside. It's a little windy, but I wanted to be out here. It's beautiful out, and I wanted to film back in the area that I'm going to be talking about, just for convenience sake. So what I wanted to do today was kind of a year one wrap-up with my outdoor garden, and just kind of give you some things that I learned, and hopefully if you're thinking about starting an outdoor garden, here's some things that I learned that maybe you can learn from as well. So to start off, I want to talk about starting your seeds too early. I started my seeds way too early. I think I started my seeds in February in my garage, with just, seed starter kits and grow lights and heating pads, and they got very leggy, and most of them didn't make it because even with the heating pads my garage got way too cold. So don't start your seeds too early. In Virginia, February is way too freaking early. Maybe wait until April. It's probably a good time, especially if you're going to transplant into the ground, because by the time I went to transplant into the ground, most of my initial seeds had died, and I had already had to start a second round of seedlings, and it just didn't go well for me. I ended up planting in the ground anyways because half the starters I had just didn't transplant well. They were leggy, they weren't going to grow. It was bad. It was a waste of my time. It was a waste of my money, and going forward, I am going to plant right into the ground or have raised garden beds. I'm not sure what I want to do yet, because moving on to my next point, I got overambitious, and we have about, I don't know, probably like 350, maybe 400 square feet of garden space back here. I can show it to you in a minute. It's quite a big space. It's where we used to have a secondary shed, which is essentially almost the same size as our actual two-car garage, and we tore it down. So now it's just ground, and I basically tried to plant things in every area of it. I had a big plan to do kind of like a horseshoe-shaped raised garden beds, and then we figured out that building them and filling them was going to be way too expensive for us to do in 1 year. So we ended up doing beds in the ground and then supplementing the soil, which did okay, but the point here being that I got way too ambitious and bit off way more than I could chew and planted far too many things, and then half of them died because I failed to weed properly. Yeah, so I just straight up stopped weeding halfway through the season, and the weeds took over and my stuff stopped growing, and then I didn't really have anybody to blame except for myself. Typical, right? We're better off starting small. Only grow exactly what you know you're gonna use, especially when it comes to vegetables. I know it's really easy to get swept away in like the big beautiful garden aesthetics. Learn from my mistake. Only bite off what you can chew the first year at least. You're gonna do a lot of learning the first year you do an outdoor garden, and you're gonna have to do a lot of research. Sorry, my neighbors just decided to come outside, so that's cool for me. See me talking to a camera. The other thing I learned is that I really like using grow bags. Those are like the kind of felt material bags, and you can buy them in various sizes. I ended up transferring a lot of the plants that I thought were doing well into grow bags, and then completely mowing down the area back here because it had been so overgrown with weeds that I just needed to get it under control without tearing up all of my plants. So I moved 3 tomato plants, 2 large tomato plants, 1 cherry tomato plant, and a bell pepper plant. No, some kind of pepper plant. I think it was like, I don't know, some kind of hot pepper, into grow bags, and most of them did okay. The 2 larger tomato plants definitely did really well, and they're actually plants my dad gave me. So the ones that didn't really do well were ones that I had started. Grow bags ended up being something that I really enjoyed using. I think going into next year it's going to be something that I continue to use because it allows me to be really selective about what I plant, and also they're pretty mobile even when they're full, as long as you don't have a gigantic plant. Like once my tomatoes got really, really big, I could no longer lift one of the bags and move them. But if I need to, I can move them so that they have better light or growing conditions or whatever. Another thing I learned is that for me, and the particular place where my garden is, summer is a huge hassle. The reason for this is we have no faucet back here for a hose. I'm lazy and I don't want to haul the hose all the way out here every single day in the dead of summer when it's 110 degrees to water everything twice a day. And I can't set up a sprinkler because I don't have a tap back here. So again, that's part of the reason why going smaller next year is one of my goals, because as it stands, I could not keep up with watering, and a lot of things died because of that during the summer. Another thing that I plan on doing next year is having less tomatoes. I would say about 75% of what I successfully grew this last year was tomatoes, which is great. We use a lot of them in my house, but honestly, I could get away with like one full-size tomato and one cherry tomato instead of like 2 of each, because once they started producing, I had way too many tomatoes, and then on top of it, my parents had tomato plants, so it's not like I could give them away to them. So I ended up with too many tomatoes. Some of them went bad. Less tomatoes next year. I would like to grow more peppers. I'm a big pepper fan. I like bell peppers, I like hot peppers, I like spicy food in general. So I would definitely like to successfully grow more peppers next year instead of tomatoes. Overall, I am not sure if a vegetable garden is for me. And the reasons for that being, I don't eat a huge variety of vegetables. I don't have a lot of people to give away extras to, and it feels wasteful if I can't do that. Overall, the area that my garden's in is not ideal for vegetables. My plans going forward are maybe a very small or grow bag limited vegetable garden, and then I'm probably going to put in some type of permanent landscaping, probably like around the perimeter here, along the fence line, and just put in like shrubbery, perennials, and then some annuals every year, and get the grass good looking in the middle here, because honestly, I don't know if outdoor gardening's for me, and I definitely am discouraged after such a huge flop this first year. But going forward, I might try it on just a very limited small scale and be really picky about what I have, and see if I can work back up to having a decent sized garden. The amount of work that it requires of me is probably the biggest hurdle that I have. With my own health problems and my mental health the way it is, and I also work like a steady job on top of everything else, I just don't always have the energy. Always being the key word. Sometimes I have the energy, and sometimes I absolutely do not. And it's not fair to ask my husband to keep up with my hobby. So, that being said, if I do a garden this next year, I will definitely do a smaller, limited scale garden and see how it goes for me. Hopefully that'll go better, and maybe that will encourage me a little more. But we'll see. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the different setting here with me filming. And I hope you maybe learned from my mistakes in some way. If you're starting a outdoor garden, definitely do your research about the types of things you want to grow, like what conditions they require to grow. Do a bit of research about the growing season in your area, and start small. Those are my 3 main tips. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I see you guys later. Bye!